everybody, good morning. My name is Adejoke, and just as she introduced, I do a lot of things, and outside of being a software engineer, I'm also the founder of Kids That Code. Kids That Code is an initiative that encourages kids to start coding early, just as the name says. So yeah. Okay, so I decided to go with this title because I've been doing a lot of writing this year, and I had to, think about something that I could relate to a lot, and something that was personal for me to be able to share with everybody, so we could all enjoy the talk. I like this slide a lot because if you're on Twitter, I use Twitter a lot, and if you're on Twitter, you can see that some of the things that have been going around is that this year is the year for lovers, and that single people have not rested since this year started. So developers also have a love language, which is code samples. So when you're writing, as much as possible, give an example and say, if you're trying to do this, this is one way you should do it. So make sure you have an example that I can just take and then paste it somewhere and try to run it and see that it works. That way, it makes whoever is reading your content excited to keep going, that, oh, I tried something that this creator put and it actually worked. If you're trying out, let's say you're checking out the documentation for the first time, and then you try out their code sample and it doesn't work, most times you might just get angry and close the page that these people are not serious. So as much as possible, try including code samples in your documentations. So why code samples should be reproducible? That's exactly what I was talking about. That when I come to an example again, when I come to your blog and I see that you've written something, I want to be able to copy this code and go and paste it. I think I already said that before we got to this slide. I want to be able to copy it and paste it. I want to make sure that what you're saying, you want to make sure that whoever is reading your content or whoever you're writing for is able to follow you step by step. So how many of us used W3 schools? Yeah, that was like the trenches when all of us first started learning. Even though it was trenches, it was actually nice because they always give this example that you just copy it and you paste it and you can see that it's working. So it's exciting and it will make you want to read more and follow up on what you are learning. So without code samples, or if you are writing for a more advanced documentation, without code samples, somebody might not really be able to understand what you're saying. Again, if you're writing a documentation, try as much as possible to add examples in other languages. These guys didn't put my stickers, so I'll try to explain what the stickers are. Don't just show, don't just tell. I think it's a salute sticker that's there. But anyways, so what I'm trying to say here is, in as much as you've written something that is great, and I know I said don't bluff, go straight to the point. So there are different ways that you can go straight to the point outside of you writing something that is great. That is you putting up visual representations. Some of us are very visual learners, like myself, for example. If I see something that is very interactive and I can see that, oh, okay, this is what the flowchart is like, this is what the diagram of what they're saying is like, sometimes using things like that can help keep your audience engaged. So yeah, that's exactly what I was saying here. Visuals over words, use diagrams in places. So depending on, if you write for a blog, I know that there are some, if you're writing, let me use an article for this example. If you're writing an article, I know that there are some tools that might not necessarily give you that opportunity to write your code to be able to be copy and paste for your users or for your audience. So sometimes you might want to be able to maybe write your code in VS Code and take a screenshot and add it to the article. So sometimes some of these ways are ways that you can keep your audience engaged with whatever you're writing. So the next point is know your audience. who am I writing for? Am I writing for beginners? Am I writing for intermediate? Am I writing for professionals? So if you're writing for people that are more experienced in tech, you want to be able to you know, get to the point on complex things. You want to be able to explain complex things. If you're writing for beginners, you want to be able to tell them, oh, you want to do like a how-to, for example. You want to do a very good step-by-step procedure for them to be able to follow through with what you're writing. Beginners versus pro. Understand the experience level of your audience and tailor your language accordingly. Don't assume everyone knows the basics. Use real-world scenarios to explain how to solve common problems. Go deep into technical details. They expect a challenge if you are writing for professionals. So this slide is just telling us, okay, who am I writing for? What kind of content do I want to put out? What kind of content do I want to put out? Who are the people that are going to be reading this that I'm writing? So as much as possible, know the kind of audience that you're writing for and stick your guns to that. So this is the hot takes that is inside my slides that I spoke about yesterday. So can non-software, this is a question like for everybody. This is not for me. Can non-software engineers be technical writers? Anybody can answer, please. It's a hot take. Everybody's allowed to. Okay.
I said it's possible, but it's so far.
Okay. Any other hot take? This is like an hot take session. There's somebody there. I just need people to share their hot takes because I've been seeing this argument on Twitter a lot. Yeah.
Yes, I would say that it can never be possible, actually. It can never be possible because of the definition of what a technical writer is. You have to be technical to be able to write and explain to other technical people.
Okay. There's one more person.
All right, thank you. So, to write, you need to understand what you're writing. So it is going to be very challenging for someone that is not into what they are doing to write about it, because your writing has to be explanatory so they understand.
I think that's the last question.
Yeah, so he argues that it can never be possible, but for his point, I would say it is very possible because the definition of roles are what are the things that causes this argument. Software engineers are people that do everything basically from end to end, and people that currently write technical stuff are developer advocates. So these people are also engineers, but not software engineers. They are developers, but not software engineers. So the definition of these roles are what causes these hot takes. So that's my thing.
Okay, so I think everybody's point is correct. There's no wrong answer. The reason why there's no wrong answer is that a lot of engineers don't like to write. So who is going to write it? A lot of engineers don't want to write. They don't like to write. So who is going to write? So for my own hot take, I do think that people that are okay. I think I shouldn't have put it like this and say can non-software engineers. I should have said can a non-technical person be a technical writer? If I had put it that way, the answer would have been no. But for software engineers being technical writers, well, I do think that if you want to write for engineers, you do need a level of understanding of what you're writing. So I've seen some people just come online and say, oh, please, how can I start technical writing? And then you ask them that, oh, have you written a line of code before? And they say no. Okay, but how do you want to like write for your audience if you are not really thorough or you don't really understand what is happening there? So I would say for me, it's important to have, let's just say, a level of experience in maybe writing code, not necessarily a software engineer, but at least you are able to explain and you are able to understand what's happening and what engineers are doing. And that brings us to my next point. Your tone is very important. This was not the next point. But anyways, developers appreciate honesty. Don't sugarcoat things. When you're writing, as much as possible, try to be honest and upfront of the challenges that they are going to face in whatever it is that you are writing. If it's an article, explain properly and tell them that, oh, okay, these are the things that are going to happen. This product is difficult to use. This is how you should go about it to make it easier. Break things down. Avoid salesy language. Developers want solutions, not pitches. So after that part of can non-software engineers be developers, that's what brings us to this part. At the end of the day, it's a collaboration. Na collabo. It's a collaboration. You have to be able to collaborate with engineers as a technical writer so that you'll be able to put out your best work. I think that's what I'm going to say. So if you've had like zero experience in writing code, or you've had zero experience in the engineering space and you still want to chase technical writing, I don't think it's impossible, but like you said, you will suffer. But you actually don't have to suffer. All you have to do is collaborate with engineers, show them what you're writing about, because most engineers don't like to write, but I know that some of them like to talk. So they can tell you, oh, okay, this looks good, this looks great. So as much as possible, try collaborating with engineers, and that will help. Collaborate with developers, get feedback from developers, have them review your content for technical accuracy, pair up with developers and co-create content. I know that we have like that whole fight between UI UX designers and developers. Don't bring it to technical writing. Let's collaborate and create better and put better content out as a technical writer. So this brings me to my next point, writing for different platforms. From the beginning of my talk, I spoke about how depending on the tool that you are using to write. So there are different platforms that you could be writing for. You could be writing for blogs, you can be writing a technical documentation, you can be writing an article. So yeah, there are different, like, technical writing is broad at the end of the day. So there are different platforms that you could be writing for. So it's important that your talk is tailored to the platform that you are writing for. I know that makes sense. Your content should always be platform specific. For blogs, longer form, in-depth articles with personal insights. For documentations, for communities, provide exact solutions or code snippets, and avoid lengthy explanation. So if you're a technical writer that also happens to be in a community and somebody is asking a question that, oh, please, how can I fix this? You can just give like a short answer. If it's something that you've treated before, you can say, oh, a year ago, I wrote about this and how to fix it. You plug in your article, you can check this out. So yeah, so your content at all times should be platform specific, and you should not be writing on a blog and be writing it documentation style if that's not what you are trying to portray. Yeah, don't stay hidden. Run SEO. So if you're writing like on a personal blog, or you are doing technical writing for a company, it's important for you to do SEO. What's SEO? Is how people, in simple terms, is how people can find you online. I think that almost everyone should be familiar with SEO, but it's easier for your content to be, so after you've written something that is fantastic and is great, how will people see it? That's where SEO comes in. So if you have zero experience with SEO, or you don't know what it is, you can just talk to people in marketing. Back to my collaboration point, you can go back and talk to people in marketing, and they can explain SEO better as to how you can push your content. So I know most times you've already written something. It's like, how can I get people to read this? How do I share this? I mean, after you shared it on your Twitter or on your LinkedIn, and your 5 followers have liked it, nobody else is seeing the great work that you've put out, and you want more people to see it. So don't stay hidden. Try and do SEO for your content. SEO without sacrificing quality. Use clear headings and keywords, because using SEO, it simply means that Google is going to be able to push your content forward when people search for it. So if you are using good keywords regarding what you're writing for your headers, for example, and then if you're writing a how-to article, I say, okay, how to install this plugin I just built. These are the steps. So if you use these specific keywords, it will be easier for Google to suggest it to people when they are looking for something familiar to, something close or something related to what you've already written. So those are like the advantages of using SEO. Write very direct meta descriptions that explain exactly what your content covers. So meta descriptions are, I don't know if you've ever shared something on WhatsApp before. If you've shared a website on WhatsApp, that sometimes when it's, if your internet is good, if you are using good internet, when you copy a link and paste it on a WhatsApp chat, and before you send it, sometimes it loads like a description of the website. Yeah, so that's what meta descriptions are sometimes. So people that run SEO for their websites or for their platforms, you will see that they've described it properly, of saying, oh, this is what this website is. It's not just enough that you are saying www.comhere.com. We've explained what comhere.com is in our meta description. That way, it's easier for, if you're running SEO, it's easier for Google to, if people are now searching for something related to what your website is about, people will be able to find it very quickly. So those are like some of the advantages of running SEO. So I think this is the final slide. The power of open source contributions. I know that open source is something that everybody talks about, and you also, as a technical writer or as somebody that wants to start doing technical writing, how can you join open source? So a lot of companies that have built amazing tools and good products, some of the ways that are open source, some of the ways that you can join open source contributions is by writing, because sometimes after they finish building all these awesome tools, they need someone to write documentation, they need someone to write articles, they need people to write, to make explainer videos, all of this. So one of the ways that you can also join in contributing to open source is by writing. So writing is also as important, because after you've created something good, people want to know how to use it, people want to know how it works. So some of the ways that you can be a part of open source as a technical writer is contributing to open source, writing for these tools that have been built. Help maintainers improve their documentation, provide more examples, write tutorials, or clarify unclear sections. So even sometimes they would have written the documentation already when the product is launched, but after a while they are adding new things. You as someone who has experience in engineering, that you've built tools before, you can also take what they've built, you can build your own and write about it and contribute to whatever it is that the company has built. So it's also a great way for you to participate in contributing to open source. So yeah, that's the end. Thank you. So I think I will now be taking I'm taking questions, if you have any questions before I leave.
Okay, hi. Second time I'm standing up here, I'm scared. Okay, you said you've been writing a lot this year, right? Okay, so earlier this year, I think a lot of people online were talking about, oh, I'm being shadow banned from X platform and Y platform, and extolling the values of having your own personal space, right? A lot of indie businesses have done that before. They have their place, they have their YouTube channel, and then all of a sudden they've turned off ad revenue or something like that. Like they're like, okay, it's cool to have social media places, but then also have your own platform where you control, right? And then, because of all that, I was like, oh, I'm bored. I went and bought a domain from the LO, which is funny because LO, fine. And I just put like a basic blog there, because personal blogs are nice. A lot of engineers that I follow online, they have personal blogs, really good, really nice. But then writing and actually putting stuff there is hard, right? There's lots of interesting things happening, but when you put like 2 posts there, and I guess since you said writing a lot, I'm just saying, how do you overcome that initial trouble with writing, right? Some people are like, oh, just write something dumb and put it every day. Some people are like, craft it, take time. Some people are like, don't over reason it. But it's you, like as a writer, at least in the flesh, what do you do personally to deal with? I don't say writer's block, because writer's block implies you've written something before. It's more like pre-writer's block, So how do you deal with that?
Okay, that's a very good question. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer, but I would answer. Okay, so for me, what I do personally is to think about like problems that I have solved in the past and write about them. So if maybe it's a plus because I happen to be technical and I happen to also write code. So if you've solved, if you've let's say for example you've been fighting a bug that you finally resolved, so that's a great content to put out. The reason why it's great is that someone else might be having the same problems, and you writing about that problem that you fixed can just be someone else's solution. So that might be one thing that you could write about. Also, depending on the kind of content that you want to put out, if you want to be putting out personal content that doesn't necessarily have to be technical, you can just think about that. I mean, there are different things to think about. Now that I'm thinking about it, I realize that I'm also having thinking block. But you can also think about it and say, okay, I want to be writing about my day. Like my day in tech, that okay, these are the challenges that I faced today. This was how why am I talking about challenges? This was how great my day was. These are the things that I did. And as somebody that is either just getting started or as somebody that has more experience in tech, this is what I feel like sharing today. So you don't necessarily have to limit, if you're writing like on a personal blog format, you don't necessarily have to limit everything to being just technical. That's what I'm saying. It's your personal blog, so you make the rules of what you want to put out today. So if you go back now, you're thinking that, oh, okay, what should I put out? I mean, you just came for there first. Write about it and say, this is my experience. This is what I liked about it. This is what I didn't like. Some speakers were boring, but please don't put my name there. Some speakers were boring and I didn't enjoy it, or I really loved it. I liked the jollof rice or something. All those kind of things can make people come back to your blog and say, oh, okay, let me see what he's writing about today. So it's just dependent on what you decide to put out, if it's like a personal blog. So you can, if it's a personal blog, you can make it personal. Like some of the very experienced engineers that we all follow online, some of them have personal blogs where sometimes they share about, I mean, there's this thing called year in review that almost all the senior engineers on Twitter do. You can decide to also do your own of saying, okay, month in review. These are the things that I did this month, and I'm sharing it on my personal blog. So, yeah. Any other question?
Go ahead.
Okay. You talked about knowing your tone when writing, like knowing your tone, like your audience, basically. So, I started a Dev2 account recently to document my my projects and try to make it into some sort of how-to article. So I've been having problems trying to determine how I should come across in my articles. Basically, I want it to be a technical-oriented article where other devs can go to, other junior devs can go to find out, like when they find out the article, to be like a tutorial, basically. But at the same time, I want to infuse personality into it. So I don't really know where exactly it would fall. I don't want the article to come across too serious, let me put it that way. But at the same time, I want it to be technical and like focus on tutorial and do what it's meant to do. So I've been so confused on how to put that the page together to do what I am trying to do, because I'm not trying to blog about, like you said, maybe what you ate, the show you went to. I just wanted to do that, but at the same time I want to come across more accessible. So that's my question. How do I do that?
Okay, I think is what I answered in the same way I'll answer you. It is, as much as possible, you want it to be a private thing, and you want to share some parts of your life, and you also want it to also be technical. But I think that Dev2 is like a technical blog, isn't it? I don't think I've seen anyone share like their personal life on. Okay, not your personal life. Please help me give her the mic.
No, I said not my personal life. Like, I want the article to be accessible, like to not be too serious. I don't know how. I feel like I'm having an issue explaining what I mean.
You don't want it to be too technical.
I want it to be technical in the sense that it's going to. I would document my projects and the whole process that in which, like now, okay, I did a shopping cart. There was a project I did, a shopping cart. So I did documentation and everything, and I wrote about it and I posted it there. But when I wrote the article, I tried to infuse like jokes and stuff like that as I was writing the article. So there were sometimes I was having doubts, like, am I doing too much? Like, does it make sense, basically? So that's like what I'm trying to ask.
Okay, I understand now. Okay, so I don't think you are doing too much. I do think that you should be able to own your content in the sense that it has a personality. It has a personality, and if people see it, there are different styles of writing at the end of the day. So if people see that you are infusing like some jokes, you are infusing fun into it, they also know that, oh, it's this person that wrote this article. I can tell. So I don't think it's doing too much. For example, my slide had like the Nakolabo, it had the love language thing. So you can infuse jokes, you can make it, you don't have to be too salesy or too technical about it. You can make it calm while it's still passing across the message that you want it to pass across. And also run SEO. So you target specific people that you want to see your content and share it. So one last question. Abi, how much time do you have?
Hello.
Hi.
Yes. So my question is simple. You mentioned you write a lot these days. So I would like to know, how do you differentiate a technical article from a documentation?
You're not very loud. How do I differentiate the words?
Like, what would you say makes a good documentation? As a technical writer, you would also write for documentation and like technical blogs. Like, what makes a good documentation and what makes a good article? That's my question.
Okay, so I'll answer the what makes a good documentation first from the lens of somebody that also writes code. So if I come to your documentation, what am I looking for? Let's say you are documenting an API that was built and it has like, let's say 5 endpoints. So when I come there, what do I want to see? I want to see a good API reference. I want to be able to run it sometimes on the documentation itself. That's why it's very good to, I didn't include tools that you can use to document here. That's why it's very good to use amazing tools like README. I know that README is quite pricey, so a lot of companies don't want to pay that amount of money. But sometimes you can also, in the company, you can also build yours. You can speak with like the engineers or like the founders or whatever to have good to invest in good documentations, because I want to be able to come to your documentation and I want to see a very good API reference. I want to be able to run it on the platform without having to move to Postman. So using good tools like README, it gives you that flexibility of coming up with like what I would describe as the perfect documentation that has the explanation of what this endpoint is doing, and then you can also like run the code on the documentation itself. I don't have to copy it and start going to Postman or opening Postman side by side to test it out. I want to see example payloads. I want to see sample responses. I want to see everything that I need. I don't have to start running around just because I'm reading one documentation. So second question, what makes a good blog and article? So what for me, what I would say is keep it engaging, don't make it boring. If I'm reading an article, I want to see an example. So you're not just explaining what it is. I want to see, for example, if you want to do this, if you want to if you are using okay, let's say for example you are writing about a particular topic. I want the writer to communicate that I've done this thing before and this was how I did it and this was what I achieved and this was what I learned. So you're not just writing that, oh okay, I'm writing about installing a PHP plugin and this is how to install it. Go and install it. No, give me an example. Make it engaging. Make it fun. Tell me about the problems that you faced. Tell me how you were able to solve it and all of that. So, yeah, that's what I think makes a good article and a good technical documentation. I hope I was able to answer your question. One last person.
Hey everyone, I'm Bumi. I have a couple things to say. I won't take long, I'm sorry. So, first off, I wanted to say that as long as you're
not very loud.
As long as you write code, you would always use W3 skills, but that's by the way. So, to better your point on technical writing and all that, I want to set an example of as someone who writes code. There are times where maybe you have difficulty with a piece of code or something, right? And you look for documentation, but it's unavailable. Your next stop is Stack Overflow, right? Yeah, Stack Overflow. And there are times where you see maybe the verified answer is a piece of code and it works. But the question is, why does it work? Nobody's seen anything. There are also times where alongside that piece of code, you see a little comment that just says this, and it makes sense why it works. And that goes a long way compared to just seeing code. So as much as we like the efficiency of showing how it works and all that, it's that little instruction, that little guide usually goes a long way in making sure that, okay, what we're reading makes sense. So I wanted to also mention that you talked a lot about writing articles for developers. Are developers the only ones that need that? How about designers, maybe data analysts? Don't they need technical writing as well? And all that. And if I still have some time to just comment on this lady, what she was saying about wanting to balance her writing. I think one of the pointers on your slide talked about knowing your audience, and I think that is very important. If your audience is diverse, you might want to have a more general approach to your writing, but if your audience is specific, because there's some niches that are like, I know some people that do like game design, for example, game development on that, and the people I see whose blog they read are very, very technical, talking about maths and all those other stuff, right? So once you know your audience, it's a lot easier to fine-tune what you want to say or generalize it, and you can always throw in humorous content here and there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So I think he had just one question and other additions. So to answer his question, yes, other people in tech do need technical writers. I'm sorry, I'm a little biased because I would only speak to like what I know and what I have experience with. So that's why I'm not speaking about writing for other fields in tech. But yes, it's true. But I also did say that technical writing is very diverse. They're not just writing for engineers. If you could be writing a technical talk for, you could be writing a technical article or a technical documentation for designers, which will also, since you may most likely not be a designer, but you might see something that you might want to write about, like maybe a new tool that was added or a new plugin that was added on one of the platforms that designers use, like maybe Figma or Adobe or something. So you might want to write for that. So if I'm not a designer and I've never used Figma before, I don't know what to write. So you should be able to also collaborate with designers and ask them, oh, what's going on in the design world? Or you could make your research. What are you guys doing? What is it like? What have you built recently? How did you build it? And that will help you. That will guide you into giving you insights to what you want to write about. So yeah, I feel like, actually, now that he has said it, I recognize my bias. Everybody should be able to get content for their fields online. And yeah, we should do more work in, researching about other kind of audiences and also contributing and writing things for them. So yeah, everybody needs technical writers. You're correct. Are we okay? Let her ask her own question.
Okay, good afternoon. My question is this: as a technical writer, how do you overcome imposter syndrome?
and the feeling that your content is redundant. Like you can go to Stack Overflow and then you see something quite similar. So how do you actually put your content out there without caring about it being anywhere else? Then you mentioned writing as a developer, your life as a developer in a particular day. How do you come out as not cringe? Because you can actually write something and then your content, you feel like this is cringe or your audience will really not flow with what you're trying to pass across. So how do you overcome those particular problems?
I think very recently, it seems as if I spend all my time on Twitter. Anyways, very recently I tweet, forget cringe, put your work out there. No matter how you look at it, it's going to be cringe. If you have siblings, you know that there are people that will insult your work very well to say, what are you writing? What are you doing? What is one doing? So actually, give it to those people first. Give it to your family member to look at it. Once you can overcome your siblings' cringe, you can overcome the world. If you're an only child, I'm sorry, you can give it to your friends. Or if you have friends like mine, they will insult you very well first. When you can say that, oh, okay, this is how you can do it better. These are other things that you can do to be less cringe. But quite frankly, you will always be cringe if you keep reading it on your own and never share it. So one of the ways that you could get better is to actually share the things that you've written. So that way you can receive feedback from people. People can tell you what you can do better, and there's no way to not be cringe. You are going to be cringe one way or the other. But you have to first of all put out the ones that you've written first. Let's even see it. When you say, oh, okay, I'm a technical writer, okay, show me your work, what have you written? So if you have nothing, because you're afraid of being cringe, you will forever be there thinking about it and never put anything out. So your second question about imposter syndrome, well, as in any field, whether you're a designer or a data analyst, any of the tech fields or even your not tech fields, at the end of the day, when you're just maybe starting out, you might face that challenge of saying, oh, okay, I don't think I belong here. Or the truth is, you actually have to gaslight yourself into thinking that you belong there. If you keep saying, oh, I don't belong here, one day it will become true. So, I mean, manifest that you belong there, and imposter syndrome is in your mind. It's not real. Gaslight it back. That's my own question. Oh, all right. So, we've come to the end. They said I should round up. Let's take one last question, and that's the last one. There's somebody at the end. Oh, I'm sorry. Let him ask his own. Okay, I think we'll take that other person after him. Then we can end.
All right. I think my own question is, so how do one build a portfolio for technical writing, especially when you want to use it to land technical writing jobs? Right, so what are the things to do, platforms to pour out your work, and then how do you put your work together, and where to even find such?
The way to build a portfolio is by, what is a portfolio? The things that are the jobs that you've done before. So if you're trying to land a job and you've never done anything as a technical writer before, what you can do is have a personal blog, 1, 2, contribute to open source. Like, look at open source companies and look at the things that they've built and then write something to them, improve their own documentation. So by the time you've done all this, you've written a couple of articles on your personal blog, you can join all of this together as your portfolio, and that's how you get a job. Because a portfolio is you showing things that you've worked on before. So it might not necessarily be for a company. It could be your personal blog. That's like one of like the simplest ways. Is like you are able to create your own blog and you're able to write things. And then also go to, I know Stack Overflow is no longer like before anymore, but you can go to all these forums, answer questions. So when you want to put a portfolio together, you can bring links to all these things and say, oh, these are the things that I've done. I've answered questions in this forum. I've contributed to an open source documentation, and I have also written. Those are like 3 things already. You joined it together, and then you're able to apply for a job. So the last person at the back, and that's the end.
Release notes from applications, like updated applications and like programming languages. They're not really that clear. So I didn't meant to be like technical technical written articles or like documentations?
And so it's depending on like the company and what they define as release notes. So if you check VS Code, release notes are mostly what are the new things that they've recently added. If you check VS Code, once you open VS Code, sometimes the release note just pops up and say, oh, you are now on version 2.00. These are the new things that we've added. You are now able to do such and such and such. So that's mostly what release notes are. But it's dependent, at the end of the day, it's dependent on the company and what they define as release notes. So I mean, I hope I'm able to answer your question. All right, so this is the end. Thank you so much. I had a great time.